Leslie?
Yeah, hello. I'd like to ask, because I started an internet service provider 18 years ago with a friend of mine from school. We now have 15,000 broadband connections across the UK. We employ 17 staff. We look after a lot of people. They're all paid well, etc., etc. We give them a good Christmas party, all the rest of it. So my question is, how on earth are we going to compete against free broadband? And secondly, can you name me a single ISP in this country that's in favour of your free broadband policy?
Look, in terms of free broadband, things need to change radically because the UK...
Right, You're talking absolute rubbish. Free broadband is just the worst idea ever. As soon as you do that, all investment in infrastructure in broadband, from small ISPs to the big ISPs, will just stop overnight. You've no idea what you're doing to ruin this industry. There's people in my company that are absolutely terrified of a Labour government coming in and just saying, well, sorry, we don't need you anymore, and that's 17 families on a dole overnight. And it's just ridiculous.
Well, in terms of broadband, at the moment, being one of the most advanced nations on earth, broadband coverage is less than 10%. If we compare that to Japan, where it is about 97, 98...
No, wait. Broadband coverage is not less than 10%. Fibre to the premises is less than 10%.
Yeah.
And that's 10% more than it was in 2010 when Labour left office.
And look, given the...
91% of people in this country can get fibre to the cabinet, which is speeds up to about 40 to 80 meg. So while I appreciate there's a lot to be done on FTTP, to say that... Anyway, carry on.
All right. In terms of broadband coverage, comparatively, while our figure is below 10%, you've got the Japanese and the South Koreans at 97, 98 odd percent. In an ever-changing world, in terms of the technological advances that have been made, if we want to truly be in the 21st century, if we want our advanced nation to be at the forefront, things need to change. And that is why what we are saying is there are about 17%, I think, of the population that haven't got any access to the internet, let alone broadband.
You've outlined what you see as the problem. Leslie's point is, what happens to companies like him who've innovated and are employing people?
We spent 18 years. We've written our own software. We've got decent hardware that we spent millions on, making sure customers. We give them first world support, or first class support rather, and then suddenly Labour are going to come in and say, well, sorry, we don't care about you lot anymore. Thanks for paying all your taxes over 18 years. We're just going to screw you over and take over.
No, I think that with a changing market, I think the likes of yourselves who are already at the forefront of this sector, I think that your business itself will probably adapt and become even more innovative, and you will reap the benefits. But I think we need to change the sector. We need to change broadband coverage so that the average person out there can benefit. As I said, almost a fifth of the population doesn't even have internet access, and there are people sitting in our rural areas and even in the urban areas where that coverage just isn't there. So we need, as a nation, as a government, to take intervention. But I think given the skill sets that the likes of yourself has, that they will be prized possessions. And I think that within that new sector, that you will be at the forefront of that.
What's your response, Leslie?
Why not subsidise the infrastructure to those premises, but let the actual ISPs run the service afterwards and carry on doing that, like is what is pretty much happening now, with Openreach is investing millions and billions in laying fibre to here, there and everywhere to give people, speeds are much faster and much cheaper than they were 10 years ago, even 20 years ago. So why not carry on with that model rather than just a straightforward nationalisation, which will just put us out of business overnight? I mean, how can we compete against a free service? It's just impossible. I know, in Labour's magic money tree world, that they think you can just hand out money and that's it, it's great. But, how can I compete against free broadband? 70% of my business gone overnight.